So this first one, Miracle. Oh, I don't know if this one you really care about. You cared about when we were talking. What we were talking about the other day, Morbius.
Yeah.
The reviews were in, and they were kind of middling, which.
But I wasn't as sad as Dane with the other news.
Yes. No. Yeah. I live to make my coworkers sad with these articles because it makes for great content. I know that makes me evil. So it says, first Sonic the Hedgehog 2 reactions praise a superior sequel. As the sequel to one of the highest-grossing and best-reviewed video game adaptations ever made, Sonic the Hedgehog 2 arrives under the weight of increased expectation and pressure. If it wasn't for the pandemic grinding the theatrical industry to a halt just weeks after the opening installment arrived in 2020, February of 2020, then the iconic Speedster's feature-length debut would have undoubtedly earned more than $319 million. I didn't even think about this. It had its first few weeks, but then pandemic happened and it basically came to a screeching halt after that. But it still became the top-earning console-to-screen translation ever made domestically. So that surpassed Detective Pikachu, which I believe came out first.
Mm-hmm.
Detective Pikachu, I think, came out in 2019. So it says Sonic the Hedgehog 2. There was a great when they did Detective Pikachu, they did a thing where like they released not a viral video, but it's a full-length Detective Pikachu online, and it's just a clip.
It's on Ryan Reynolds' YouTube channel where it's like, here's the whole leak to the whole movie, and it's just Pikachu dancing, and I love it.
And it never changes. It's just that you think the movie's gonna start, and it just never does.
I just love him.
She does. So it says Sonic the Hedgehog 2 is doubling down on fan service for good measure, with Jim Carrey's Robotnik returning in a more game-accurate form, while Idris Elba is stirring up some very confusing feelings as Knuckles, with Sega stalwart Colleen O'Shaughnessy reprising her long-running role as Tails. It's so awesome. You hear that voice and you're just like, holy crap, I'm 10 again. It's incredible. Ahead of the movie's release on April 8th, the first wave of early reactions have arrived online, and they're about as positive as fans were hoping they would be. So here's one. It says, this is from Ben Schwartz. It says, I just saw the final cut of Sonic Movie 2 in a theater, and it was awesome. I am so proud to be a part of this franchise. Okay, so he's an actor on that. That's the guy. Yeah, he's not one to listen to. But it says, Dorian Parks says, Sonic 2 is a real love letter to the Blue Blur. It takes everything you liked about the first film and gives you so much more. Tails and Knuckles are fantastic additions, and Jim Carrey as Robotnik is even more unhinged. I like this because they're sticking to the themes of the movie, and it sounds like it really is supposed to be just a family-friendly, enjoyable movie. But as always, I do want to caution that there is from time to time a strong divide, especially in culturally relevant movies, between what audiences want and what the studio or in what the critics want, right? Mm-hmm. So if you look at the first Sonic the Hedgehog, which became a weird cultural landmark in the way of similar to The Last Jedi was, we have a 63% critic score, but a 93% audience score. The reason for this being that when the first movie came out, Miracle, you remember, the first trailer came out, and what we saw was, what would be that term that people love to use so much?
Atrocious, teethy monster.
It was pure
nightmare fuel.
Nightmare fuel is the word most often used. And what that caused was that the trailer was filled with comments about how awful it looked.
Yeah, and they responded to it.
And the studio did the unthinkable and gave the audience what they wanted. Made changes at great cost to the film. They had to go work, I'm sure, a whole lot of crunch time in the animation department to make him look good for the movie, make him look like the video game character. And they were rewarded by the audiences supporting it with strong word of mouth. People going to see the movie at a very trying time, right at the edge of when things started to go bad with COVID. And what I find really interesting about this is that now the critics are giving it a strong recommendation. Does this change things? I don't think so in this context, because it seems as if most of these reviews, they're not praising like suspicious acts. Like it's an animation movie, so the fact that it's not live action helps it a great deal. It's a kids movie, so there's going to be less messaging and anything on it. So any of those weird wedge issue things that we fight about in these industries now aren't really as relevant, or aren't going to be as relevant in something like this. So it says, just saw Sonic the Hedgehog 2, and it's a love letter to the video game lovers. Had a ton of fun with it. Unlike a lot of blockbusters, the third act is bananas, and the strongest film Jim Carrey reigns supreme. Sonic the Hedgehog, and then they in the video game studio and the movie.
Mm-hmm.
This is in contrast to Halo, which just came out today
Yeah.
and is being panned by most of the fans.
As expected.
As
right?
expected. And we find out that the reveal of Master Chief's face,
Mm-hmm.
episode 1.
Oh, that's kind of disappointing.
Yes. So they're doing what they should be doing, which is making something that the fans of the franchise want to see.
Should we make Dane watch it and give us a full report?
I'm not that mean.
I am.
So
Let's do it.
Good news. Sonic Movie 2 is a lot of fun, a much bigger, more action-driven film than the first Sonic one, with great jokes and plenty for longtime fans. Jim Carrey is next-level maniacal as Robotnik, but for me, it's all Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles. The trio delivers a ton of heart and humor. All of these are very basic, positives that don't seem to be anything related that the average person would take offense to. So I am very excited to see how this goes. Miracle, I think this is one we will have to go see.
Yeah, I really want to see it because like I was listening to one of the trailers again and I heard Tails like narrating the whole story, talking about how Sonic and Knuckles, they have a long time feud.
Yep. So we will see. And we have one more thing. This doesn't seem like a movie you would go see. I love talking about stuff like this, but it doesn't seem like the movie you'd be very interested in.
Oh, I don't know. It's interesting.
Do you have younger siblings?
I do have younger siblings. So like a lot of movies, like I'm not likely to just like go on my own. Like if you guys want to go, I'd go with you. We've talked about it so often that I do feel like it's something that I'm like going to end up seeing. But yeah, it's definitely something I would be like, when you have younger siblings that you want to be the cool sibling and be like, I'm going to take you to do something fun. Going to the movies is like one of those cool things you can do with them. But it is very annoying to spend money on tickets for a movie that you as an adult don't really want to see. So this is why I'd probably take them to see this one. It seems cool.
This was the review that I liked the most. It says, I won't go too deep just yet, but the themes of heroism, friendship, and even honor made this such fun to watch unfold. The Sonic universe is forming now, and someone who has jumped on with Sonic 2 in the Genesis days, seeing well-done Sonic movies makes me smile.
Yeah.
Those themes are universal, and they transcend those stupid things that we argue about, whether it's identity politics, whether it's how studios adapt these things. Universal themes like friendship, like honor, like heroism, being done properly again for the first time in what feels like years. And the fact that it has to be done with a blue hedgehog that runs really fast just proves to you that you just need to look away from the mainstream, at least the mainstream ideas when it comes to finding stuff that speaks to you, I think, if those are things you're looking for.
Yeah, I think especially with a lot of movies that, could be for kids, but also could be for anyone. There are a lot of really dumb series produced for children that then you have to get all of the... You don't have to, but like there are then like, the accessories and the games and the toys and the dolls and whatever else. And like you would want one like this, as if the reviews are correct, like that have values and have a storyline that you're like, I legitimately am supportive of you. I'm in support of you taking in this content, as opposed to being like, I feel like I can't say no because everyone your age is watching it, but I actually feel like it's rotting your brain.
There's this one too. It says Sonic 2 is a worthy successor. The kids in my theater were howling. It has all the winks, nods, and nostalgia and laughs for fans from the first movie could ever want, and feels more loyal to its game roots than ever. So the kids loved it. And the game roots, which are for people my age, are in there as well. So it seems like they're somehow finding a way to crack the code and make everyone happy, not just one demographic, which is what, to be fair, these studios seem to want to do, but just are really bad at it. So we will see. I'm excited to see that one more now. Though I do think it will. I don't think it will be as divisive as the first one. Now that the issues are revolving around the way the character was designed have been resolved. So we have one more story here, and this is about a new movie from Ana de Armas called Blonde, and it's about Marilyn Monroe. It's a biopic. We had Lucille Ball got one recently with the Ricardos, right? Being Ricardos.
Yes.
We had a Pamela Anderson one, which she's now doing Broadway. Did you see that?
Yeah, I did.
And they're making a documentary about her doing Broadway.
Man, she's busy.
Yes. And this one about Marilyn Monroe receives an NC-17 rating. And I just want to point this out because I do believe that this is very clever marketing because this is not a theater release per se. It will get a small theater release, but it is essentially a Netflix-produced movie. It says the story of Andrew Dominik's Marilyn Monroe biopic Blonde dates back almost a decade. However, the long-in-development Netflix film starring Ana de Armas as Monroe is finally coming out this year. Now, according to the latest Motion Picture Association ratings, listing Blonde has been rated NC-17. However, since this is a hybrid Netflix and theater release, it's debatable how much the rating matters to the people wanting to watch this biopic from the comfort of their couch. So basically, I had to ask the question, like, what is the difference between NC-17 and TVMA? Right? And from what I learned, at least from what according to this, it says basically NC-17 is theater only, of course, and it means that no one under the age of 17 can come in at all. Yeah. Right? So it says NC-17 means no one under 17 admitted, whereas R would mean no one under 17 admitted without parents. It says, so a TV show rated MA is basically includes both R and NC-17, so it actually has both of them in their territory. So this is just clever marketing on Netflix's point, like, because they're going to do like some theater release, like a limited studio or limited theater run, which they'll be like, ooh, it's NC-17. It's going to be very edgy. So I think it's clever marketing, at least in the way this is phrased. It's a film about, and this is from the director.
I wonder if it's a way of like indicating, because like there's no like Game of Thrones or a bunch of stuff that like HBO put out would actually be, if it had a theater release, which of course it wouldn't, but there's no way that it would just get an R rating.
No,
right? It would be NC-17. So in some ways, I wonder if this is like a way for Netflix to signal like, hey, you don't need to just go to HBO for your edgy content. Like, you can come to us too.
Yep. It's so this is just a quote from him. It says, it's a film about the human condition. It tells the story of how a childhood trauma shapes an adult who's split between a public and private self. It's basically the story of every human being, but it's using a certain sense of association that we have with something very familiar just through media exposure. It takes all of those things and turns the meanings of them inside out, according to how she feels, which is basically how we live. It's how we all operate in the world. It just seems to be very resonant. I think the project has a lot of really exciting possibilities in terms of what can be done cinematically. She's kind of one of those people that is so, kind of like the movie Titanic, that is so culturally relevant still, that she will be omnipresent in pop culture forever. You will never escape Marilyn Monroe, whether it be posters on walls. And if you're there's a joke in like a show called Rizzoli and Isles where she goes into this, a young woman like in her early 20s is murdered, and she's like, why do all early 20s women have the same 4 posters on their walls? And she's like, predicts that she has the Marilyn Monroe poster with her over the grate in her bedroom, and then ends up actually being there. So it's just a very relevant thing to culture for young women in this country.
Yeah. Well, and her story had she sort of got a second wave of interest when Hugh Hefner died.
Yes.
Because of his treatment of her and some of the sort of changes in culture that developed around the narrative of like what women have the right to say no to, or sort of like our understanding of like power dynamics. And that can be controversial to talk about, but she has been relevant in many waves of culture, and her story continues to be looked at from new angles.
It's almost
it'll be interesting to get this, especially if it's been 10 years in the making.
It's almost like that she's kind of reanalyzed anthropologically in a weird way every so often, and stays relevant, but for different reasons. And that's kind of fascinating.
When I was on the show,
kind of like Kurt Cobain.
When I was on the show earlier this week, we talked about like, will young Hollywood starlets who are like dressing really provocatively right now, or in a way that just seems like fashion but edgy, will they look back one day and say like, I wish I made different choices? Not necessarily that they regret it, but like as they grow up and have a different perspective, they would look back at that time differently. And I think that's what happens to American culture with Marilyn Monroe's story. Like the more we learn about her, like the more we find that, you know, we maybe have an idea of who she is, especially since she's built as this sex symbol.
She's very clever.
She's extremely clever. She's very smart. She had like a lot of, you know,
worked very hard.
But also, again, I don't really want to tell the story because I can't totally remember it. But, you know, her Playboy photos, that like the photos of her that Playboy published, if I'm remembering the story correctly, she didn't want out there. And they did it anyways. And then Hugh Hefner, from what I know, bought the plot next to where she is buried.
Wow.
And like she had talked about how like he was like basically her public enemy #1 because like he had really wronged her.
Yeah.
And like that is like this weird sad thing.
That's
right?
very sad.
So I'm very curious about this movie.
When you think of her, do you think of tragedy? Is that what you think of when you
a young beauty?
There are so many things that I think of when I think of Marilyn Monroe. I don't have like any of her paraphernalia. She's not someone I follow super intensely. But again, like I think of her as being someone that like they look at as like young and beautiful and like should be just so happy. And she actually had a lot of really difficult struggles. And I think in some ways like it takes her from being this 2D poster on your wall to being like an actual human being.
More so than a lot of people who would have been famous for similar reasons, she feels more fully developed to people. At least as much as we can know of her persona.
Right. And
she feels like she's more of a 3D representation of a human being,
right,
than that of just a 2D celebrity that you know for various reasons.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think more and more, again, given like new context and how we view her story as a culture, like she becomes a more vivid person all the time.
Yes.
Which is incredible because she has actually been deceased for quite some time now.
Yeah, for sure.
I would imagine that the most ambitious of celebrities, female or male, would love to one day find out that they had the effect on culture that someone like Marilyn Monroe has. Like, I'm sure that anyone who is that motivated, that they want to leave their small hometown, move to a city where objectively 99.9% of the people who move there to become something fail. The people with that much drive, with that much hope for that, this is what they want. They don't want to just be kind of famous. They want to have the effect on the world that she has, at least the effect on what she meant to America.
But it cost her. Like, that's the thing.
Her.
It doesn't come at nothing. Like, she didn't just...
Yep.
But also, you know that famous Andy Warhol painting of Marilyn Monroe? We didn't talk about it today, but...
this one?
Yeah, so basically it's on auction right now. So we could buy it if we had over millions of dollars.
Not me.
The image is estimated to sell for $200 million. This is how old now? So it says iconic. So Andy Warhol painted it. So it says an iconic image of Marilyn Monroe created by Andy
1964.
Warhol is coming to auction with Christie's auction house estimating the price at around $200 million. The silkscreen image known as Shot Sage Blue Marilyn, a close-up of Monroe with her hair in yellow, her eyeshadow blue, and her lips red, is slated to be part of a week of sales in May. So that's just it just proves to you that even now, however many years later, it says if it met the sales estimate, the 1964 painting would be the most expensive 20th century artwork to be auctioned at Christie's. So that's how relevant and how important she is to culture here, to our history as a country, which is kind of fascinating to me.
Yeah.
So
yeah, he also that artist, I really admire him a lot because he does like talk about like celebrity worship in his artwork. So there's one where he had multiple prints of Princess Diana's crash, and he made multiples of it, and then like different variations of it, one fading, one like fully dark with all the shadows and shadings. And he was...
Forgive me for asking, is Andy Warhol still alive? He's not still alive.
No, he's not.
When did he die? Had to be fairly recently if he painted Diana's.
I'll look it up, but...
Yeah, you look it up. But basically, he was making a commentary towards, like, celebrity worship and how, like, paparazzis and people, we don't treat them as, like, human beings anymore. Like, everything that we put in our face, we get desensitized. And that's what I admire about him. And I loved it that he did this painting. Well, you said screen print, right?
It says silkscreen, yeah.
Okay, I know that process. That's a very tedious process. I've done it before. I love it, but it's very tedious.
Okay, well then it was clearly an important work.
Yep.
Andy Warhol died in 1987.
Yes. Okay.
But when did Princess Diana die? How could he have done?
She died before him.
She died in the 90s.
I'll look again, but anyways.
Okay.
Yeah, I think she died before him because it's the car crash that he did. That's one of my like
I didn't know Princess Diana died in the 90s, but maybe I'm wrong. She died in 1997. Maybe it said 97. I didn't realize.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. Like for me, I kind of want to see this because I just watched a YouTube short where like she's making a comment towards female beauty. Why like it's okay to have like a preference looking at a beautiful woman. It's like if you just look at a man and they don't know how to do stuff, will you find them attractive?
Yeah.
Or like pay attention to them? I don't know. Like she's very clever and I want to see them do a a take on how clever and smart she is, going through this industry, being a sex symbol, all the way to being pop culture icon.
I imagine that the documentary will have to be equal parts of that, but also focus heavily on the tragic element of it, as that tends to come up a lot when discussing her story. So we will see. That's
and they talk about like, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No.
Like what I'm really curious is they say the line is that she struggled to balance her like two sides, like her public and private life. And so I think that's going to be really fascinating.
That's extremely culturally relevant today, almost even more so.
Is the rumor true that she had an affair with John F. Kennedy?
That's the rumor. I don't know if it's ever been
I don't know if that's ever been proven.
But she was linked to a lot of famous people. I mean, she was married to Joe DiMaggio, like all kinds of things. I did confirm Princess Diana's car crash was 1997, and Andy Warhol died February 22nd of 1987.
So somebody else must have painted that.
Maybe in his style, or someone he
usually
trained.
What artists do. So like for Andy Warhol, they'll have assistants that will continue it, or like they have apprentices who will continue their work.
Then and it was likely an apprentice that would have.
It'll tell you like, so basically if you look at the date of the paintings, it'll tell you when it was started and when it was done.
Well, she couldn't have started the painting before she had the crash.
What if he did and he like predicted
He predicted the future. That's a crazy movie somebody could make. Oh wait.
Yeah, I don't know. It would be cool because like this reminds me all over art history. I have the
I bet. Very relevant.
I think I still have the art history notes on Andy Warhol. I have to bring it over sometime.
Pretty cool.
Well, we will see. We will see where this goes. But I just thought that was a fascinating. That could be an interesting movie. And then the NC-17 thing is just very interesting because they're going to make that a marketing ploy for people who want to go see it in theaters. Thanks for watching this clip, guys. If you want to see full episodes or follow us on social media, links are in the description below. Bye.